Hello everyone, welcome to another SSCAIT report. My name is Chobo Swaggins, aka Jealous on Team Liquid, and today I'll be showing you some replays that were submitted by members of the community that feature interesting games between Boudoir AI. So without further ado, let's jump into the first game. Here we have Crazio versus Steamhammer. Crazio is up here at the top right as the red Terran, and in the top left we have Steamhammer as the orange Zerg. Let's speed things up a little bit. First things that we want to keep track of are what builds the players go for. So here, we're not seeing any sort of early pool shenanigans quite yet. Are we seeing anything like a BBS from the Terran? No, that will not be the case. So it's going to be a pretty standard start so far, it seems. The Overlord, interestingly, is scouting diagonally, which I believe is one of the safer plays, because then you get to see where the SCV comes from when it's scouting your base, therefore getting information about whether or not they're located next to you or across from you, potentially, based on the timing, something that bots could figure out easily. It also scouts the middle to see if there's any proxy barracks there. And in the meantime, we do see the spawning pool coming up. Let me see if I can see. There's the production, army, upgrades, research. Yes, I'm going to bring that up for you guys. I learned about that recently after my last broadcast. In the meantime, the Terran is seemingly going for a very standard build here. What is this going to be? Let's see. That is a bunker. So definitely playing very safe here. Not trying to fool around at all. Perhaps even a little too safe, but I guess it's difficult to program for blocking the ramp with SCVs and putting Marines behind it. This is just a safer play, and it seems that it wasn't a good idea. It was a good idea to do so because Zerglings are out. However, unfortunately, they are going to be scouting in the wrong direction. There is one drone going that way to be able to find the Terran player, but interestingly enough, we noticed that the Zerg player has already started mass expanding, taking this third gas, which should be very difficult to hold actually, given that it's located right between the Terran and the Zerg players. So let's see what the Zerg is up to so far. They are going for a gas off 3 hatcheries. It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be lurkers or mutas, the two very standard options. Meanwhile, the Terran, interestingly enough, is going for 1 racks with Academy, which indicates to me that it might be some sort of pressure play, maybe adding another second barracks or third barracks even, and trying to bust one of these bases before mutalisks or lurkers are out on the map. SCV scouting very well. You can see here that the SCV used the mineral walk trick to get through those Zerglings, which is a very, very advanced technique, and it's great that the programmer here has opted to go for this choice. Let's try to follow up with it a little bit, and it looks like he's going to be going home now. In the meantime, we are seeing an engineering bay as well, which is likely for a +1. One thing that to note is that +1 armor helps a lot during sunken busts. So maybe that will be the option here. +1 attack in general is better for mutalisks. So we'll see what the options are here. And we're actually seeing a 4th hatchery here, a layer in the natural, which I like. And there is a hydrogen here hidden in the 3rd base, which if someone was playing against a human opponent, or maybe even the computer opponents, if they don't scout this, they will not know whether or not it's lurker or mutalisk. However, these hydras coming out should be a good indicator of that as well. The layer is done, and that means that lurker upgrades is likely to be on the way soon as well. We're seeing Stim and Burrow on their way, with Burrow being an interesting choice for the Zerg player here. It seems that when I use my arrow keys with this menu up, I unfortunately can't move the map, but we'll see what happens. It's actually just Hydra pressure, which the Terran should be able to hold quite easily, even with only 2 racks production, because Hydras are just not that great, especially in low numbers against the Marine medic. With a bunker out here, the ability to defend is almost guaranteed. In the meantime, let's see what the Zerg is going for. What building is this going to be? It's an evolution chamber. It seems like we're going to be going for some heavy upgrades for the ground units, and we're taking a 4th base as well. The Zerg playing very economically oriented, taking advantage of the fact that there's lack of pressure from Crazio here. Crazio, meanwhile, defending well against this small army here that is merely just, I guess, a presence. A couple of Zerglings running in and being lost once in a while. This egg right here, I loved it. It waited for the lurker upgrade. I wonder if it's going to be enough damage output from the Marines. If there's enough damage output coming at the moment when an egg pops, sometimes the unit just disappears. I don't think 3 Marines is quite enough to do it, and absolutely not. It burrows instant scan from the Terran, but unfortunately lurkers are very good against Marine medic, and now this contain is active. However, the siege tanks are out. Little known fact perhaps is that siege tanks actually outrange lurkers even in unsieged mode, but in siege mode they absolutely do, and they took out all 3 of the lurkers here. This would be a great time potentially for the Terran to do a counter push, but it looks like his medic count is kind of low. Let's see what else he's doing in the meantime. He is continuing to produce Marines. I don't see any upgrades in the engineering bay, which is interesting. Possibly due to the fact that he does not have a science facility, it seems like. Science facility, definitely a building that is very useful for Terrans in this matchup. You need the science vessels to get rid of defilers, to potentially irradiate lurkers. And we see the classic Terran siege tanks sieging, unsure of exactly what to do. Lurkers coming forward to pressure, but unfortunately within the range of both the siege tanks. And the first one, I believe, was in the range of the bunker as well. So not quite optimal here, but this constant pressure is allowing Zerg to continue to take more bases on the map. There's more hatcheries being thrown down as well, so the production is climbing. Still on layer tech, no hive yet, and I love this vulture run by here from the Terran player. It forces so many units back from the Zerg player, and Zerglings are being microed down effortlessly by the vultures. Very nicely done here. And by the same time, and the pressure has been lessened at the front as well, but it should be noted that the Zerg is continuing to expand everywhere across the map, and the production difference is going to start climbing. Terran seems to have no interest in expanding quite yet. The way that it's laid out as base makes it seem difficult to produce units efficiently. Only 2 barracks and 3 factories, 1 starport and a base is not equal strong production here. So despite the fact that it did some good damage with the vultures, and despite the fact that the Zerg is constantly hemorrhaging units, the science facility notably getting taken down here actually, it seems like the Terran is penned in by its lack of production and the overwhelming production and economy from the Zerg player. Look at that production here. Isn't that beautiful to see? Lurkers are coming forward and dying more quickly now as the siege tank count rises. If they continue to hemorrhage this way, a potential dangerous counter push from the Terran player is possible. However, it seems that the numbers are continuing to keep the Terran penned in. Zerg now with Mutalisks trying to engage against these turrets and Goliaths. This mix of Zerg units is incredibly hard to deal with because you need to address attacks on all fronts, especially against a multitasking AI of this level. Goliaths are now being forced to stay in here, but as I mentioned before, the layout of this base makes it difficult to maneuver around to defend against the Mutalisks. I'm interested to see why if the Mutalisk will dive in here. Sniping something like armories would be very useful in this situation. And we have Zerglings still continuing to pressure on the front. Zerg continuing to expand like a boss, and it looks like there was another vulture here. There are vultures patrolling everywhere, doing consistent harass against the Zerg player, forcing its army to go back and forth quite a little bit. Now we have Queens out on the map. I'm interested to see what will happen with this as well. And now the Terran and Goliath count, that scary mech army that Terran can field, is starting to grow. Factories being placed at the front even. There's actually a pretty decent wall here, especially with the mine coverage. Starting to open up the base for Terran a little bit, but it's still very far away from getting a 3rd gas of its own. Need as many gases as possible, and Valkyrie support is a very good move against Mutas as well. So Terran is basically playing this, saying I don't care how many bases you have. I don't care if there's an economy difference. If I get to my ideal late game composition, my 200 death ball, there's nothing that you will be able to throw at me that will stop me. And that is definitely a potentially valid approach. Taking advantage perhaps of Terran having a split army, but it seems that with Defilers and Hydralisks here, yes, this will be what is difficult for mech to deal with here. Queens as well. And it seems like both computers are fighting on both sides. There's dropships even now loading up vultures and Scourge flying around waiting for those dropships. There's just so much going on. I'm going to slow this down. I wanted to keep it faster so I could get to more games this time, but this is just very interesting stuff. There's so much going on the map, and this is exactly why it's hard for human players to deal with a good AI, and this is a great example of why AI is so intriguing to watch. There's so many little micro interactions happening everywhere on the map. It's almost impossible to keep up with everything. This dropship, look how well it's navigating to try to find a little spot where it can go into. I would have loved to see it drop the vultures there. Maybe it's thinking about it. Queens now and Hydra's pushing forward, and it seems that the lack of economy from Terran is starting to hurt now. The main is all but mined out. He is taking his 3rd base here. He's actually putting a factory here to start maybe laying vultures and mines and producing siege tanks, which is an interesting choice. However, Zerg already has a full 60% of the map. Will this Terran army be able to slowly push forward and take more territory in this game? I am not sure. Let's see what goes on next. We're still seeing pressure here now. Ultralisks also fare well against small numbers of mech, especially not tank heavy armies. We do see a lot of vultures and Goliaths, and we see Plague here, and we see Swarm here, and this bot, this Steamhammer, is doing just about everything in this game. Very good performance here. He is consuming. He is going to cast, let's see if it's Swarm or Plague. Both are good options, where you see another Plague here, continuing to consume and cast. No irradiates. This is why the Vessel is so important, and beautiful Plague here, hitting the Valkyrie, and 3 Siege Tanks, 2 Goliaths. Those are all very expensive units, and now soon they will be down to 1 to 3 HP, and that means that they will be ripe for the picking. Irradiates coming down now on the Ultras, another great choice. It kills those Zerglings that are moving on around it, basically giving a very cost-effective spell for the Terran player. However, it is continuing to hemorrhage units, and remember, these units are weak. I love the fact that there's SCVs repairing, but unfortunately the Zerg pressure is becoming too much. The production is too great, and even though Terran did manage to establish this 3rd base, it is poorly defended. This 4th base, even less so, and Zerg does not seem to care about these bases all too much. It has discovered this one. It seems like it's intent on pushing through the front of the Terran base, but this wall structure, very interesting, as well as the mines. Siege Tank in the back with repair. It's going to be tough to bust this, but at the same time we have Mutalisks pushing at the top, and it seems like those armories and depots are getting hurt quite badly now. And if these armories go down before 3-3 is finished, it could be a dangerous position for the Terran to be in. Not that it's not dire already. Vultures continuing to harass everywhere, killing drones. Such a crazy, chaotic, APM intensive game. Both AI floating insane, inhuman levels of APM, but the Zerg numbers are becoming too great. It seems that the Terran's safety into Deathball build is not going to complete. It was split between pushing down and up by the Zerg player, and as a result it never got that true Deathball, and it seems that the Zerg is going to finally bust through the front here and go claim the main of Crazio here. What a fantastic game by both of these AI. Crazio is going to hold on for a little bit longer, but I don't think it's going to be for much, as he is overrun by the Zerg player, and now surely soon we will see the GG. This 3rd base is going to go down, SCV's number falling, and the swarm, the waves are incredible. 196.5 supply versus 6, and this game is certainly over. Thank you for joining me in this broadcast. That was a great game to get us started. I believe this was submitted by Antigua. Fantastic game. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next game, we have, let's see, it's going to be Banana Brain versus Purple Wave. Both of these AI very strong, and we are seeing Banana Brain spawn on the top left as the purple Protoss, and in the bottom left we have Purple Wave as the white Protoss. Now both of these AI are available to play in the StarCraft Human and AI League, which is an online ladder that allows you to play against many of these bots that we've been watching in these VODs, so I definitely suggest that you check it out. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description for this video. Now, PvP, very interesting matchup in my opinion. Some people say it's coin flippy, other people say it's kind of like a knife fight in a back alley, because some early micro interactions can be fundamentally game changing, and build choices as well. 2-gate being a popular build choice, 1 gateway gas into cybernetics being a popular choice, and then it comes to the minutia, whether you go Zealot, Core, Zealot, you skip Zealots altogether, Zealot, Zealot, Core. It all depends on what you scout, what order you scout your opponent in, and what your opponent is doing. In the meantime, it does seem that both players are going for the fairly standard option of 1 gateway gas. This is especially more standard on ramped maps, because you can go for tech options that help you claim territory, like a 1 gateway Reaver expand. We do see our Cybernetics Core coming up for the purple Protoss here, and it looks like it is coming up alongside a Zealot, so it was Cybercore Zealot, and it seems like it's Cybercore Zealot for the white Protoss as well. Slight differences in the timings here, but not too significantly. The Zealot coming out forward for Purple Wave here, which is ironically in white, and we have Banana Brain in purple. The probe continuing to scout here, and the Zealot is actually staying back home for Banana Brain to handle this probe. The Dragoon popping out and taking out the probe. One thing that I want to mention, it would be interesting to see if AI could maybe have like some sort of internal calculator knowing when the Dragoon is going to be finished based on the timing of the Cybernetics Core. That's something that I generally do in PvP based on when my own Cybernetics Core and Dragoon are finished, but that's when you generally want to send your probe home. We do see range most likely coming up for the purple Protoss here, and this Zealot here just keeping tabs on the army. Meanwhile, sending more army forward, definitely taking a more aggressive stance. The probe from Banana Brain actually making its way back home from the chasing Dragoon, probably taking advantage of what I mentioned earlier, you know, keeping tabs on when the 7-Ice core is finished. Interesting to note here is that Banana Brain can actually come out and claim territory whenever it wants, because it does have the superior army count, but this positioning from Purple Wave maybe will allow it to get a few more stray shots before any significant exchanges of military happen. So Purple Wave definitely being a little bit more aggressive. 2-gate observatory, very standard play here from the purple Protoss, but the white Protoss actually interesting build here. It looks like it's some form of DT expand, but not you usually get the DTs earlier and they come out first, and then you can take your Nexus behind it, but this is a safer option. Now with the DT out, it is going to go forward and try to pressure, but the observer should be on the way already for the actually no, it's Reaver. Interestingly enough, this DT could actually therefore do some damage by chopping at the army, but you also don't want to risk losing it, so maybe both players playing a little bit safer. I'm still surprised not to see an observer out on the map. Maybe oh, there it is. That explains everything. Going observer before Reaver, definitely the safer option here. Safety seems to be the name of the game for a lot of these AI. If you're safer and you get to that late game, mid game, where you can use your superhuman multitasking and your late game production, you are more likely to secure a victory both against human and against other AI. If you survive longer, you have more chances of winning, I guess. And this DT poked up and immediately falls, realizing that it is outmatched, and now we're moving out. But the observer is not in place to handle this second DT. It did do a couple of chops here and there. Not bad. The observer is here. I'm surprised that it didn't move over to try to address this DT, but this DT would be foolish to poke in here. It is going to try to poke in here. The Reaver was not ready to shoot at it, and continuing to keep tabs on his opponent here. Both players still conservative on base count, only on 2 bases. No real need to expand yet. I believe both focusing more on army production. Should be noted that despite Banana Brain's safe opening, and as a response to, well, consequently from Banana Brain's safe opening, the expansion was later. But now with the shuttle out, we're going to see that beautiful shuttle micro that is the bane of my existence when I play against these bots, and it may pose a threat to the Reaverless white Protoss here. Normally you would see High Templar following up from the DT rather early on when it's humans playing, and the High Templar are quite good against Reavers and shuttles, but in this case it doesn't seem to be the case. Now we got 2 shuttles each for a Reaver. That is OD. That is something I have not seen yet. This is going to be interesting to watch how these engagements go. I'm going to slow down the game a little bit here. And, oh, I missed the button. Yeah, let's go. Alright, so it's going to be interesting to see how Purple Wave is going to hold this. It seems that he's trying to draw the army away with that singular Dragoon, and now the pressure is coming to the front. There is a lot of army back here, but with 2 Reavers microed very well, it's possible that the hold is going to be quite good. Pressure. I love the way that these Dragoons fanned out away from the DT to avoid getting hit even once by those lethal blades. They do so much damage for 1 hit. You want to keep the HP on your army maximized. I would love to see the Reavers come out to pressure a little bit more, because this is exactly the kind of situation where they would be so useful. These Dragoons are getting clumped up here trying to bust through this natural. The concave should be better for the purple Protoss as well. The Reavers finally going forward a little bit, taking a shot. The Dragoons smartly targeting the Reavers, but 2 shuttles, 2 Reavers, too quick for this Protoss to deal with. And now finally the High Templar are out. A couple storms could help clear out this aggressive position. The speed is done for the Zealots on the way. They could be used to drag some of the Scarabs away from the Dragoons. Both army counts are dwindling, kind of. It's kind of interesting to see that maybe production isn't keeping up. I would love to see it. I would love to have seen Purple Protoss continuing to reinforce this army, but it doesn't seem intent on doing so. Or perhaps the army is distracted elsewhere. It has taken its 3rd base now. The white Protoss is patrolling all the bases looking for a potential expansion to deny. And this pressure, it's still good, but it's gonna, I feel like it's going to miss the timing when because when Storms comes out, yes, this is exactly what happens. They can severely hurt this kind of aggression. Storm generally considered to be superior to Reaver. Obviously it's good to have both if you can control both, which AI certainly should be able to, but it seems that here we'll see the interaction between pure Reaver versus pure Storm. This Storm, yes, this is exactly where it's strong, because generally, especially humans, they would not be able to pick it up that fast, move out of the way as fast, but we already see the shuttle at half health. That Reaver was damaged as well, and so it's easy to assume that now the white Protoss will start pushing out slowly but surely to push this purple presence back. I know that both sides have been losing units consistently, but white Protoss seems to have more gateways, it seems. Yes, absolutely. There's more gateways for the white Protoss, so its production is stronger. And even though on the tab it doesn't seem that way, purple Protoss producing a ton of probes right now, actually, whereas we see that the white Protoss has pretty much stopped producing probes altogether at 48, 63 for Banana Brain. Banana Brain going for that late game macro and starting its 4th base. Meanwhile, the white Protoss just now starting its 3rd. The pressure from at the front of the purple Protoss has taken a number, but the Reaver goes down, unable to be scooped by that shuttle for whatever reason. Maybe a slight terrain issue, maybe something off of slightly about the speed of the Reaver walking against the shuttle moving, but there is one shuttle left, and with one shuttle down, one Reaver remaining, the white Protoss with superior production is going to start pushing forward against the purple Protoss. Will the tables turn now? The Reaver, this would be a good place to potentially hold against this narrow choke, using a Reaver especially against Zealots, but the Reaver is getting dropped and over again without firing a shot, and it goes down. This is now a dangerous situation. I love that little Zealot line that was here to prevent anything from running by, but in this situation it's time for a defensive position. Yeah, look at this. This is very interesting. I mean, of course it left these Dragoons out and is blocking these probes in a little bit. Would have been nice to program maybe a mineral walk to the expansion here. The cannons here will defend the probes against these Zealots, but the white Protoss seems not interested in engaging in this very fortified position, and is going to go directly for the undefended 4th and 5th base of the purple Protoss. Great decision making here from the AI. And now the army from the purple Protoss has no choice but to move out of its safe position in the natural and try to stop this attack. The Nexus here gets denied. The Zealot here is taking down probes. Double cannon started. I love that decision, because if the first one goes down, the second one should finish in time to maybe kill this one Zealot. But the Zealot is only intent on killing probes, which is another great decision. Purple Protoss still ahead quite significantly in probe count, but the white Protoss seems to be producing more. Just now adding Templar Archives is the purple Protoss catching up in tech, but we haven't seen much Templar action from the white Protoss regardless, and now we're seeing that classic AI situation where there's action happening everywhere. The Zealot finally getting chased out, having killed all the probes at this expansion. Probes now transferring here with enemy army anticipating them. A DT chasing this probe to that base, getting blocked by his army that can't see it, changing its target to this Dragoon, realizing that it's not being seen, killing a probe here. Great decision making from the AI here for the DT. Is it going to take out more probes? Yes, it will. If body blocks that probe, it takes down another one. Army here, it looks like it was pressuring over here, and actually there's quite a few probes that are just like milling about despite the nearly 20 probe supply difference. I believe that a lot of them it's due to the ones that are just kind of milling about between the bases. I think that there's easily about 15 probes here. The white Protoss macro is continuing to build, and this engagement on the bridge is not going to work out in purple Protoss's favor, because it's only probes that are holding trying to hold the flood of white units. But the purple units, it seems like they're just being pulled in all directions by the aggression from the white Protoss here, so really great play. Interesting choice to stay at 50 workers, but it seems to be working out quite well for it, considering the fact that it's up in supply overall, which means that it has a 40 army supply difference right now, considering that there's, well, nearly 40 army supply difference, and that is what is leading to its advantageous position right now in this game. If you maintain your army count, and it's a fine balance, because you never want to have too few probes to produce army, but you never want to have less army than your opponent if there's ever a big engage. In this situation, though, it seems like a big engage is not even in the cards for either player, as the white Protoss continues to harass all over the place, taking down the 4th base from the Protoss player, now equal at 3-3 bases. And finally, Templar have re-entered the arena here, and I'm interested to see if there's maybe a Reaver in the shuttle. The shuttle is very low on HP. One storm could easily take down this shuttle if it doesn't move out of the way quickly enough. And are we going to see a final big bust here? The army supply from Purple Wave for a full 40 now ahead, and beautiful blanket storms here. Magic box storms are probably individually selected storms, but very nicely done regardless. And I love the way that the purple Protoss is making this concave here to prevent itself getting trapped in the tighter concave of its base. And it forces the white Protoss to take this high ground position. Great use of terrain here. And it looks like the purple Protoss is venturing out of its base to create an even wider concave for any attack from the white Protoss. And white Protoss was funneling in from two sides. Its army is split, and it seems like it will not be able to take an aggressive stance here. It is still patrolling with the Dragoon, trying to prevent bases. I love the fact that there are Zealots patrolling here as well, maybe patrolling in slightly odd areas, but still doing wonderfully to patrol between this base and this base, and this one and this one, keeping eyes on all bases at all times. In the meantime, not looking to expand itself, and ooh, this might be a problem right here. It has blocked a significant portion of its army in and can't get out. This is dangerous. I mean, it's going to lose a lot of its army because now the purple army is catching up in size as both players are maxed. Worker count has fallen for Banana Brain, and that actually works to its advantage here as it is more equal in army than it was before. But if this, okay, we're finally starting to get some movement out of the base. Is it because of two Templar that were told to merge but weren't able to do so? It might be the case as they are stacking over top each other. And it looks like, is the purple Protoss thinking about expanding here? No, it does not seem to be the case. And now the purple Protoss is coming in from both sides. A beautiful storm on the white Zealots, I'm sorry, on the Zealots here. Actually, I'm sorry, that was the white the white Protoss that did it, and it hurt its Zealots more than the enemies, I think. But now the purple Protoss is coming back with a vengeance just as the white Protoss is starting to take its fourth base at the bottom right. And let us see how this engagement goes now. There's probes in the mix. They're making these units clump up and not be able to engage appropriately. A beautiful concave from Banana Brain, a very interesting thing. And really, I think it just comes down to one issue here. What happened, it was the blocking on the ramp. Right when Purple Wave had a significant advantage, the pathing down the ramp and around, possibly around this cannon as well, maybe, caused it to not have fielded its whole entire army at the same time, and thus putting it into this difficult position. These storms, maybe it was targeting the observer that was there, I'm not quite sure. It definitely could have destroyed a lot of these probes here that are now trapped in limbo between the bases, trying to get to a place where they'll be more effectively used, as both of these bases are practically mined out. The beautiful, like 270-degree concave here from Banana Brain absolutely decimates the army from Purple Wave, which was split in two earlier, and now it is all but over for our white Protoss here. Yes, absolutely, and it seems, yes, when we see Banana Brain retaking the fourth base, its natural and third being dangerously low on minerals, but the economy definitely stronger than the white Protoss, and white Protoss loses natural. It doesn't have much resources in it, but it also does not have much resources to work with as well. As you can see here, the production has all but stopped, and this should be soon to be a GG. Well, that was a fantastic game. You got to see the interaction between Templar, and Reavers. You got to see some amazing 2 shuttle, 2 Reaver engagements. You got to see a tug of war happen, and then you got to see a fault in the AI or a fault in the pathing of the AI, which is notoriously difficult in Brood War to begin with for any player, save for the most practiced. Lead to the ultimate demise, despite the fact that it had the advantage for such a long time in this game. And also, again, I love the interactions here. The DT changing its targets to the most optimal target periodically. The multiple areas of engagement between this bridge here, this area here, and this area here. The patrolling Zealots and Dragoons trying to deny bases up at the top and over here. And now we see the purple Protoss taking full advantage of its map control and taking 6 bases as it goes to eliminate the last base of Purple Wave. And I think it's quite safe to just move on from here. Thank you so much for submitting this replay. Next up, we will have Dragon versus Adius. Let's find out what we have in store for ourselves here. In the top left, we have Adius, the blue Terran, and the bottom left, we have Dragon, the red Terran. So I remember this replay was, this one was submitted by Haupan. It was strongly recommended. He called these, I believe he said that these are titans of TVT, so I'm quite interested to see. TVT in human games, especially between lower level players, can be, you know, a little bit of a bore sometimes. Very, how would you say it? Stalematey, you know, long siege tank lines, little engagement, turrets everywhere to prevent drops, so on and so forth. I'm going to be interested to see how multiple thousand APMs are utilized in this matchup. And we see an early scout coming out from Dragon is going to find its opponent in the first attempt. Andromeda, by the way, notable also for the fact that it is very easy to take 3 bases or even 4 bases as Terran because of the fact that you have these high grounds here. You can place siege tanks on them, and then after that you can dropship an SCV, mine out this mineral, and take this base. I'm interested to see if the AI will take advantage of that or not, considering the fact that, you know, this is a quite unique feature of a map, and you have to recognize this and probably program specifically for it in order to take it, and specifically for this map. As a result, it's one of the few maps that has this feature. In the meantime, no gas from the red Terran. Looks like it, yes, it went for a command center here. Interesting choice, by the way, because this is the mineral only expansion, but it is the safer option. So it's looking for a quick economic boost, but it is not going to take advantage of that second gas that is located here, which leads to, you know, lower tank numbers potentially, but higher vulture count, better economy going into the mid game. In the meantime, it looks like the blue Terran has already taken its gas, has already completed its factory. No add-on quite yet. It's going to go with a vulture first, and it's going to go take the gas expansion. So a difference in approach already visible here. Earlier factory and earlier gas versus an earlier expansion. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. We finally see the expansion here from the the gas from the red Terran here. And the vulture is going to come up, is going to see the fact that there's a bunker here, and it's going to run away. Nope, it's going to decide to come back for a second peek, and that's cost it its life. In the meantime, what do we see? We do see the add-on complete now. I would love to have seen siege mode probably on the way already, because there is a possibility of making the situation difficult for the red player. Maybe if there's a starport on the way. Let me bring up the production. No, that looks to be another factory. With a starport, and you place some siege tanks over here, it could be quite difficult for the red Terran to ever take another gas. It does not seem to be the option here. It seems to be using these tanks defensively, and it's going to be... We're going to see what happens. We see an armory coming up for the blue Terran. Armory is very useful in TVT, especially because once you get to +2 attack, you can two-shot enemy tanks in siege mode. So normally it takes 3 shots from a siege tank. Now it will only take 2. So whoever gets to +2 earlier does put themselves in an advantage. Academy coming up as well, probably for the ComSat scanners, also a critical part of TVT. It's very important to know what options your opponent is going for, where are their dropships, so on and so forth. So already we see the economic advantage from red giving us 3 factories and a fast third command center, as opposed to only 2 factories from the blue Terran. But again, the blue Terran is opting for tech over everything else. It seems getting that earlier ComSat, getting that earlier armory, but no +1 yet spinning, which is interesting. I think that it would do well to prioritize getting that +1 as fast as possible. Let's see, any research? Oh, this must be a bug. They already have siege mode a long time ago. We're seeing Goliath range for the blue Terran, so it seems to be going for tank Goliath, which is a good composition. Vultures don't do very much against mech. I think they only do like 5 damage against all other mech units. Whereas red is going for vulture speed, as kind of predicted, the fact that it was late in getting those gases. But oh, look at this push here. This is why I was saying that blue could easily have made it difficult with early siege tank counts. He could have parked here. But it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between the 2 siege tank lines. Who's going to have the superior micro? There are some really interesting things about siege tanks. I believe they shoot farther in one direction over another. I don't remember which direction that was. There's been some discussion about that on the Team Liquid forums recently. Maybe up. It seems like it might be up. It also could be just the fact that there's better pushing from the red Terran, but let's see, repairing SCVs on both sides, keeping this tank alive, who's been an absolute champion so far. Now the SCV is being pushed back by the presence of the vultures, and mines now helping to secure some of the territory for the Terran player here, the red Terran player here, and it's starting to push forward. Both players are being surprisingly aggressive. This is exactly the kind of siege tank stalemate lines that I was talking about earlier, but both players seem intent on pushing the other person back, something that's almost impossible to do at such a consistent rate while macroing elsewhere. For human players, this is something that you won't see in human versus human gameplay at all. That is for absolute certain. This really shows why TVT is so difficult for humans against AI as well, I believe. But it does seem that blue does have the superior army composition, more heavily on siege tanks. It has Goliaths, which are somewhat better than vultures, but it may... Oh, look at this beautiful push here, using the barracks to grant it vision of the opponent siege tank. So siege tanks can actually shoot further than they can see. That is one thing that I know for a fact, and that's why it's using this barracks to, it used it to snipe this tank before that tank could shoot up. Now, also, as it inches forward here, these minerals will become denied, so it'll effectively become a 2-base versus 2-base game, but blue does not seem to be intent on expanding yet. It's adding its own starport, maybe to address the fact that red's Wraith here is being quite annoying. The Goliath count is actually dwindling quite quickly, but the tank count is continuing to grow for the blue Terran. And the red Terran with these repair SCVs, some of them holding gas, unfortunately, going down to the splash damage, but these like single tanks that are holding the line against numerous tanks of the enemy are so interesting to see. And again, we have just one tank. It should be noted that the tanks are being hemorrhaged very quickly. Even though there is a total of 6 add-ons, it just does not have the gas, it seems, to continue to produce them. A case that is true for both players. I mean, we see Adius, floating a lot of minerals now, and now it's taking advantage of the map control that it gained to take this 3rd base, opting to go for that base instead of the mineral only, which I think is a good choice, and given the fact that it has taken this map control, still effectively containing here. Still being a little aggressive though. With this amount of vultures, I think it could easily run forward and try to take out some tanks, but with the Goliaths coming in support now, that option has been removed. Siege tanks on this high ground here could easily help for defending this mineral line and maybe secure more of this area of concave for itself, allow it to breathe a little easier and maybe take a 3rd base of its own. So many mines here. Normally mech would be fine just walking through a minefield because in decent numbers, because they shoot so quickly and they can kill mines, but with this kind of density, I believe that even a fairly decent-sized Terran army will have a difficult time going through. However, it should be noted that successfully the red Terran has broken up the aggression from the blue Terran. It seems like it was delaying its reinforcements a little bit, and now we're going to be in the middle. The tank count is greater still for the blue Terran, but the amount of vultures that has been conserved by the red Terran is now growing significantly, but as I said before, they are not the best choice in mech confrontations. So many go down so quickly to siege tank fire, but so many mines have been laid as well, establishing a new line here. And the tanks inching forward ever so slowly, trying to push back this wave of blue Terran that has been controlling that space for red. Red still has not taken a 3rd base. Vultures intelligently blocking any expansion attempts potentially for the red, but red taking the riskier base here. Some dropship play from blue could deny this and harass it, most definitely here. Tanks coming forward, and now the tables have turned slightly. The tank count for red now greater than for blue, inching forward. But blue is still floating quite a lot of minerals. I would love to see it to switch into maybe slightly heavier vulture production, even though it does have the advantage of having a gas up against its opponent. But that's going to change very soon as the red Terran, perfect timing on the transfer to take this gas. Well, almost perfect. Let's say almost perfect. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And so, just like that, by the time that the red Terran made it to a dangerous position for the blue Terran in terms of position, it has dwindled its numbers, and now will we see another tug of war switch back? Vultures now going out. Looks like they were thinking about scouting this area to see if there's an expansion here, but actually it has mines here, which is a great play. It's going to be informed about any expansions that the opponent takes. And now the counter push has started, but again, the supporting units to the siege tanks, the vultures and Goliaths, they seem to be going down quite quickly. I love the fact that the blue Terran tried to go for aggressive mine coverage here. It was definitely a potentially viable option, but the AI sniped those mines very quickly, and now the counter push begins again. As these tank armies, they push forward, they lose their supporting units against the defensive position of the opponent, and then by the time they get into a dangerous position, the numbers are not enough to stem the tide from the nearer production buildings of the opponent. So it seems like this line, which is actually quite dangerous for the red Terran, considering the fact that this is an effectively undefended base at this point, and we see those forward mines coming forward again. This one hits defensive matrix that keeps this tank alive. Excuse me for a second. Sorry, I had to cough. So the tank's now trying to inch forward here to keep this base defended. This is a very important line for the red Terran to hold, considering the fact that, again, it is only on 2 gases. It has mined out of its main, and it's net mineral only natural, sending the SCVs there at it, and using them to repair as well. The conflict here, so much more active than you would normally see from human players. It's actually a treat to see. And now we have, I mean, blue Terran is well established here, does not have any danger posing it, so in terms of stability, I would definitely give it to the blue player, but it's too early to tell anything as red now starts making its push back. This science facility potentially going down. And the mineral count, notably for Adius, has gone down significantly. I'm interested to see why that is. Maybe it's because of the fact that it has included more vultures into its play, using those aggressive mines. But I'm not liking this long distance mining. It should know that it can place a command center here. The defensive matrix on this tank is such a beautiful decision. We saw this in before the Kespa era ended. There was it felt like there was going to be a TVT revolution when Fantasy played against Flash. If I recall correctly, he beat him in SPL, and then he also beat him in their one-on-one head-to-head series. I think it was like 3-0 or 3-1, and he made use of the defensive matrix to push forward like this, something that we hadn't really seen much of in the competitive play yet. And the fact that we see this in AI, it's a great decision from the coder here, and a great play from the AI itself, successfully pushing back against this blue Terran, turning the tides. I mean, it also has a supply deficit, 30 supply less. 8 of it in army, most of it is in workers though, and somehow, but slowly but surely, it has pushed back the blue Terran. And the blue Terran, it still hasn't taken more bases, and it's actually running quite low on minerals here. I mean, that is, to be fair, the red Terran is also on only 1 base, but that is its 4th base actually. I miscounted earlier, I'm sorry about that. Technically it is its 4th base, and will this lack of command center and minerals acquisition here cost Adius here? I mean, it certainly seems to be the case, as Red has taken a very dominant position here, and it's using its own air units to keep vision, so that the vision is equal between the one provided by the barracks and by the Valkyries slash Wraith slash Science Vessels. But Science Vessels, again, such a beautiful choice to use defensive matrix on the forwardmost tank to draw the fire and survive a little bit longer and be aggressive here. Command center coming down now. Is this from the main? That is an interesting choice. That is a very interesting choice. That props to the program for coming up with this. Obviously, maybe not the most ideal decision, because we could have, built a new command center earlier, but this is a very smart play that you rarely have the opportunity to do. In this case, might not pan out because these minerals are exposed to those siege tanks, but it's an indicator of great AI foresight, of programmer foresight for situations like this. Just needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, I believe. And as we said though, as I was talking though, these tank counts are starting to dwindle. These Wraiths are lowering the numbers. Wraiths are in larger numbers. Not much anti-air for the red Terran here. So are we going to be forced into another stalemate situation here? Terran now, I mean the blue Terran now also mined out of this base and is now long distance mining here. It does not have a minerals for another command center. Meanwhile, red much more comfortably mining. So is it going to be enough to hold here? Now the blue tank count is dwindling, and as the Wraith count climbs, the anti-air amount is actually quite low for Adius. So I'm starting to suspect that this might be this little hemorrhage for Adius here now. Even though it has the high ground, the production and economy is going to be stronger for red for quite a little bit longer. This long distance mining is not going to be able to cut it. There's only 5 minerals here. There is some army here keeping that base alive. There's actually quite a significant number, but it doesn't have the option to push forward. I mean, there isn't much defense here, but the production is definitely stronger from red, as we're seeing here, and I'm going to speed it up now to see how this ends. It's consistently repositioning itself, being a little bit less aggressive, a little more aggressive. I think now it should start opting to move forward this way a little bit more. Yes, it is. Where did those tanks go earlier? I'm not sure. Oh, it looks like it's taking the middle base. That's an interesting choice. Blue not opting to be more defensive about it, not looking to engage here. Tanks being positioned defensively. Great play here from Dragon as it continues to contain the production, the very limited production of Adius. Adius does have enough money now for a command center, but obviously preferring to stay alive by producing units now. Would have loved to see it take this base, honestly. I think that might have, if it had committed to it earlier, it would have had greater income now. But actually, Dragon is the one that has no income, and Adius has income. Such a low economy, low army count situation here, but the army is still greater for Dragon. So many siege tanks here. A notable lack of anti-air, but well, with the arrival of the Valkyrie and the Wraiths here, it's actually going to be just fine. Oops, I did not mean to move that. Sorry about that. Adius, oh my god, is it blocking its own command center with the mine? Oh no, it could still land here, guy. You can still land here. No. I think this game's a wrap. I'm going to speed it up a little bit more, as now the center has been claimed by the red Terran, and it's going to be just fine. The red Terran now claiming the mineral base here, and I wonder why I took this one. Is it to mine this gas? This gas, I think it's not mined out. I'm not sure if OpenVW would display a mined out gas versus not mined out gas, but it's interesting that's not mined out. Is it taking this mined out gas as well, or is it just doing that to claim territory so that the enemy can't ever claim it for themselves? I'm not sure. The enemy doesn't really have much left for itself. 3 workers, 4 army, and that's where we're going to cut it short. Trying to see possibly one or two more games here. So thank you so much for this additional submission. We had Adius versus Dragon here. Great play, very active tank versus tank situation, something that you rarely see in human play, and something that I don't think is actually feasible for human versus human play. So for some of you, this might be the first time seeing it and the only time seeing it. And I would suggest that you keep up with this channel and more AI games to see more stuff that you will never see in human versus human games. Now, moving onwards, we have I have 2 more replays available to me. Maybe I'll do both of them. Maybe we'll do one of them. We'll see how we are on time. This one, I did not put the replay in the right place. Sorry about that. I'm going to put it here. No, I don't want it. I'm confused. Let's see. Okay, we got it. Okay, so here we have Zergy Boy, the yellow Zerg at the top right, versus Locutus on the bottom left. Let me double check. I might have Zergy Boy's maybe more commonly known name. I have to double check the submission here real quick. Bear with me for just one moment. I'm looking at research instead of replays. Oops. Alright, never mind. Let's just call him Zergy Boy and Locutus for now. I'm sorry to the author. I don't want to take away from this broadcast by focusing on it. So, Locutus, one of the strongest AI, especially, one of the strongest AI versus humans at the very least, and therefore most likely formidable in its own right elsewhere as well. Going for, looks like going to be a Forge fast expand on Bluestorm, which is actually quite difficult to do on this map. This area is so complicated, and there's possibility of Zerglings running in from here, hydraulic pressure from the high ground. This map is quite difficult to play, and let's see what this is going to be. That is a Forge. Where are we going to see from the Zerg player? We're going to see a spawning pool. Looks like it was overpool. Not the most aggressive build, definitely quite... It's a good build for this map because what the Protoss player can do is block the hatchery if you go for a 12 hatch of some sort. So you want to get your Zerglings out first. And this also in turn forces the Protoss to potentially make cannons before Nexus, but it is at the mineral point. No, alright, so it does opt to go for the cannon, recognizing well the fact that the Zergling threat is there. However, Zerg took the advantage of the probe being away from the natural to take the expansion instead, so we're not going to be seeing significant Zergling counts, and as a response we see the Protoss throwing down its Nexus after just one gateway without sealing off the wall. So great reactions, decisions from the AIs here. Very nicely done. The Zerglings are going to go forward, potentially to prevent any future units from coming out of these bases. We see the gateway being placed here to add additional coverage for the cannon. Maybe not in the most optimal position, as maybe over here would have been better to cover both cannons, but this cannon is actually quite far back, so there is potential for some abuse here. I think that Zerglings can attack here and take down this Nexus before there's anything that the Protoss can do to stop it, but the Zerglings seem to not be interested in doing so, because maybe if by running through here they might be within range, but I'm not sure. Either way, fairly standard openers, like it's almost like human level openers from both of these players. Obviously superhuman movement and reactions from both players, but let's see how these players play. And as soon as I said standard, I was proven to be wrong, because we see here that we have a 2-hatch Spire off of 1 gas, which is an interesting choice. Whoa, what was that? Oh, okay. Anyway, we have the Zerglings did run by here, and looks like they took down a probe, maybe at least one, before losing a couple of their own numbers. Dragoons now out for Locutus. Dragoons, notoriously difficult to control on this map because you can't walk through here. You have to go up here and then go around, and then you have to go around here and around here. And in the meantime, the Zerglings are continuously running in to take down probes. This is taking advantage of that cannon placement issue that we had earlier, and Dragoons are an interesting choice here for this map, not only because of the pathing differences, but because early Dragoons are generally not that great against Zerg, especially in low numbers. The Mutalisks are out. Mutalisks way more mobile than Dragoons, especially on this map, so this could be a ripe opening for the Zerg player. The Mutalisks seem to be pulling back a little bit just to attack a couple of Dragoons to mitigate the damage and pressure onto its own natural. Great micro from the Dragoons, though. but the numbers are not great enough to deflect these Mutalisks. The Mutalisks, interesting third base choice actually from the Zerg here. Normally you would go for this base most likely, or maybe this one, but it's opting to go here, using the map control that the Mutalisks have given itself. And no anti-air coverage from the Protoss in this base. There is a cannon here. I'm interested to see what the follow-up is going to be. It looks like a Citadel is being thrown down for the blue Protoss. Is that double Stargate? I mean, sorry, double cybernetics. Is that going to be for a Stargate? Yes, it is. It's going to be double upgrade air units. Is it going to go into carriers? I think this is going to be Corsair into carriers. If the Corsairs had been earlier, this would have deflected the Mutalisk entirely, but the lack of cannons over here makes it so that the probe count is going to dwindle, and with no economy, it's going to be very difficult to produce carriers. However, with if it's going to be 2 Stargate production, or even actually just 1 Stargate production, it's going to be enough. Wait, why is there 3 cybernetics core? Is this for range? And I am so confused. I am legitimately confused. We have a Templar Archives now. This is so. I don't even know. Sunkens here deflecting the Dragoons. The number of Sunkens is greater than the amount of Dragoons. I'm pretty sure you can't apply any pressure. Mutalisks continue to pick off probes here. There is still active gas mine. Finally, we see the first Sarah. It would be nice to see maybe a Scourge response from the Zerg player, but with just one, with just one Sarah out, Mutalisks pick it off easily. Didn't even need to split up for it. Just chased it down. Very nice play here from the Zerg player. I mean, Mutalisk Micro is one of the first things that impressed me about AI play, so it's no surprise that it's being utilized to its full advantage here. Corsair, another one, is going to go down, not being allowed the time to put up any cannons or build up that bulk of Corsairs. So, but the Dragoon count, interestingly enough, is rising here. Some of these Sunkens are injured quite badly. Let's see what the healths are. Oh, but some of the Dragoons are hurt quite bad as well. Still not enough to bust down this base, and I don't think that the Protoss is aware of this base. This base is actually pretty difficult to bust through with Dragoons, but with only 1 Sunken, I'm confident that this army could have done it. However, it's this continuous loss of probes here. And Archon versus Mutalisk is difficult even in human versus human interactions, but I imagine that it's even more difficult against annoying Mutalisks such as these. We did hear Mutalisks go down because the Dragoon count is climbing and the Corsair count is climbing. Nice Scourge pick off here. That's exactly what we want to see. 2 thrown away Scourge here though. But if the Archon puts itself in a position where the Mutalisks have to engage, it's potentially going to be dangerous for the Zerg player. I mean, the number of Sunkens is still great. The Sunkens can obviously also prioritize the Archon as well, but in the meantime, it seems like there's still not enough army to bust through the Sunkens, and the number of Sunkens is continuously growing. The Mutalisk count is also continuously growing as well, and the Scourge pick off, another nice one here if you manage to catch it here. Keeping that Sarah count low, which is keeping these Mutalisks active and dangerous out on the map. A couple of Scourge went down here, but it seems like nothing serious happens. Oh, the Archon is... Oh, that was a perfect situation to hit all those Mutalisks, but the Archon opted not to do it. Oh, 1 shot gets fired off before the Archon falls. That is not worth its weight in gold. 1 more Archon here, completely naked and exposed. Could be picked off as well by a split up of Mutalisks, and more probes going down here. The economy from Protoss has been in tatters this whole game due to the positioning of the cannons not being where it needs to be. 1 cannon here, maybe 1 cannon here would have prevented the early Zerglings, and it would have severely limited the amount of damage that the Mutalisks can do. And props to the Zerg AI for taking advantage of that. Now we have Hydralisks out. Hydralisks are great against this composition from Terran, from Protoss. They are good against Dragoons, maybe not in these low numbers. In these low numbers, the Dragoons are still better, but as the production begins to increase, they're going to destroy this Dragoon Archon army, especially with the support of Mutalisks. Scourge here ready for this Corsair, and it goes down. Interesting to me that the individual Sarahs don't opt to run away from Dragoons, but okay, the Dragoons found this base now, and they're going to push in, and I think that they might be able to take it down. Yeah, especially with the Archon support and the Sarah here. It does get taken down by the Scourge, but the Lurkers here. Lurkers, no observers, and will this base hold because of the tech choice from... Oh, and I love this decision to burrow these drones here. It keeps them alive. This may be why we saw the Zerg in the last game do it. Oh, but so much Protoss death. These Lurkers absolutely demolished the Protoss army, and now Protoss has no advantage basically. I mean, it did take out the 3rd base from Zerg, so on even bases, Protoss is advantaged, but Protoss has mined out of its main, and the natural is still under harassment from Mutalisks losing probes, and now these Lurkers are going to march down here. 2 cannons and a Templar, a couple of Dragoons are not enough to hold this force, I believe, slowly going to creep forward down here, I'm assuming, to take down this wall, taking down these army that can't see it. First ob's out, but now there's no army to defeat the lurkers, and Locutus is going to be taken down by Zergy Boy in this game. Very, very dynamic game here. It showed how a small fault in the building layout can lead to tragic consequences for the Protoss player, both for humans and for AIs. And great AI, great decision boy from I said decision boy. Great decision from Zergy Boy. Decision making from Zergy Boy to run those Zerglings in and pick off those probes over and over again, to bring those Mutalisks back to pick them off over and over again, keeping Locutus poor, and ultimately that led to the victory. I'm still puzzled by this decision of the 3 cybernetics cores. That was a puzzling decision for me, but maybe in the comments you can think about what those could have been for. I would have loved to see maybe 2 starports in response to the early Mutalisk choice, but yes, now it's all but over. Zergy Boy taking advantage of the map control to expand behind it. It's great heads up play, and the game is over. So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me for another SSCAIT report. Before I let you go, I do want to inform you that there is, oops, did not mean to do that. Let me try to fix that. There is going to be an AI competition. People have started submitting their AIs already. Some of the AI that you've seen in this game, I believe Purple Wave is in it. And I mean, in this broadcast, Purple Wave has been submitted to this AI competition. Many others that you've likely seen throughout other videos are also involved in this competition as well. Basically, it's a $500 first prize tournament, as far as I understand it, and AIs are going to compete in a one-on-one tournament, more or less, throughout in the coming months. And so definitely something to look out for. We have community links in the description of this video if you want to join the Discord and keep track of more interesting developments in StarCraft AI, videos, replays, so on and so forth. So with all that being said, I hope to see you guys again. Thank you for watching, and have a fantastic day.